a video of something that I want to have a faff around with, but it might be part of another video. I made some potato bread. I wanted to make a potato bread that had more potato in it, so I've been faffing around using instant potato and dehydrated potato, and then potato that I have frozen, and then because it freezes, because the water comes out when you freeze it, you can squeeze the excess water out and put more potato in the bread, because I enjoy faffing around with things. I did it with, and then I did those breads with a sourdough starter. The only problem with the sourdough starter is that it needs wheat to eat it. It needs wheat to ferment. So it's a yeast that lives on wheat. Therefore, you have to feed it wheat for it to survive. You can't make a sourdough starter using a starter that you've collected from wheat flour and then make a bread out of different types of flour, because it doesn't want to, I have found personally, that it doesn't want to ferment, because it's not the right type of food for that yeast. So I did that and used sourdough starter. The only problem is it's quite a long fermentation process and didn't get the best kind of results. So I want to use packet yeast, so fast acting yeast. The only problem with fast acting yeast is there's not much flavour to it. So the bread you make is okay and it looks well, but it's not particularly flavourful. So what I thought I'd do is I'd make a Poolish, is that the right word? Where we make a small batch of bread first with some fast acting yeast, and then we let it ferment and let it die, and then through that process it imparts flavour into that bread. And same like sourdough type of thing. Sourdough is nice because it's a slow fermentation, so we're kind of fermenting it once with some yeast and then adding fresh yeast again. So that's kind of what my feeling kind of is. Oh yeah, and because we're using more potato, we kind of need to eat up the gluten content of the flour. So I bought this. So this is vital, and I haven't been drinking vital. What is wrong with me? Oh no. Yes, I know. Yeah, I'm getting confused because it's the name Wagner is actually Wagner, isn't it? So it's W's and V's. That's why I'm kind of getting confused. So it's vital wheat gluten. So this is basically the gluten that comes out of flour. So I wanted, because we're using potato and there's no gluten in the potato, we need to add some extra gluten into it. So we can either do that through extracting some gluten from some flour, or we can just buy this. I just bought that. So, whew, that's a long way around things. And I've forgotten how much water I'm putting in this. Is it? Yeah. So we have got 600 grams of flour, and then we have got 100 grams of the vital wheat gluten, and we've got 1 sachet of yeast. I think that'll be enough that we might, although if we've got another part one, we might add another. We'll put 2 in. Because there is more in there. So is it 350? Yes, it was 350 grams worth of water, which is that there. So not going to put any salt in because we want it kind of to ferment. Is this right? Yeah, about 350 grams. Yes. So 2 sachets of yeast. I'll mix that into that like that. So the only problem is we need to mix. God, I haven't had a drink in ages. I don't know what's wrong with me. Oh no, perhaps I'm getting dementia or Alzheimer's. Anyway, so we need to whisk the gluten into the flour. Otherwise, it won't mix in particularly very easily. And then let's put the yeast in the water and mix it around that way. And then we know we've got an equal distribution of yeast in there. The yeast recommends that we put in some sugar, but we're not going to do that. I'm not that bothered about the water being warm either, because it's going to be I'm just going to leave it overnight, and when it when it ferments and dies, it ferments and dies. I'm not going to use this until tomorrow, so it doesn't really matter if we put sugar in to kind of speed up the process or that type of thing. So that into there like that. Make sure we get all this here, and then mix in. Probably not. Well, we might need it. I don't think so. I don't think we really need to. I just think we can need to mix it all together, don't we? It will be really, well, it'll be full of gluten more or less because we put the extra gluten in. But, so it will be a pain to knead anyway. It's going to be interesting. It might need more water in this. Although, when you add water to a dough, what happens is that you leave it for an hour, and then the flour has time then to completely absorb the water into it, and therefore it's a way of being able to introduce more water into a dough. So that's why sourdoughs are kind of quite wet doughs, because you leave it for an hour before you knead it. It's a really tough dough, is this. It's a really tough dough. So just keep working it to get all that flour in. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how much it will ferment with that yeast in it. We'll see. I don't want to add too much water into it, because the water, when adding the frozen potato to the dough, there's quite a lot of water in the dough, so we don't want to add too much water at this process. We want to be able to control the amount of water we can add later on. So I'm not going to knead it. I just need all that flour to get into the dough, but we needed to add the wheat into it, otherwise it's difficult to knead it in afterwards. So this might be 2 videos, it might be 1. Now it's starting to go in, so we'll keep going in, and then we'll just, I'm not going to knead it. No, I can't be bothered kneading it. I've got other things to do. There's washing up to do. There's always washing up to do. There's other jobs around the house to do, so I don't really spend time kneading it for 10 minutes. I think it will just, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's uneven in its rising, because we're not going to make, this is only a part of the process, it's not the process. So, we might just give it another mix around in an hour's time. It'll start to ferment quite quickly, but in an hour's time it will just be able to mix it in a little bit better. Yes, that's what we'll do. We'll just leave it for a bit, and then we'll see what it's like in an hour. So within this hour, this has started to rise already. So it's certainly working. So I'll just let that rise and prove and wear itself out, and I will be able to use that bit of dough as a flavour enhancer to some dough that we're going to make tomorrow, or maybe the day after. Depends how busy I am. It's supposed to, I've got a bit of gardening to do, but it's going to, it might rain, so we might end up making bread tomorrow, or we might just go and do some gardening. Anyway, that'll be fine. It'll rise again. I've knocked it back, but it'll be fine. So cover it with a shower cap, and then let it do its thing. Right, I have taken half of this Poolish. It smells really yeasty, so I think there's going to be loads of flavour in that. It rose up and then it's died overnight, so it's about 24 hours old this now, so there's plenty of flavour in that. So there is about 510 grams, so it's about half that recipe that we had. And then in here we've got 480 grams worth of potato. So what we did was, I say we, there's only me. I took some potatoes, I peeled them, I boiled them and cooked them with no salt, and then drained them, let them go cold, mash them, let them go cold, then put them in the freezer, defrosted them. This seems like a long process, it is. Defrosted them, and then because of the freezing process, it breaks down the potato, and the water kind of wants to come out. And then what you can do is you can squeeze the excess water out of the potato. So you just get a cloth, something clean like that, something like a flat cotton is your best bet. That's an old pillowcase which I've cut down. So something like that, and then you can squeeze all that water out of the potato. And because we've squeezed all that water out of that potato, that means we can put more potato into the potato bread, because we're limited to the amount of potato we can put in bread because of the water content. And essentially what we're really doing when we're adding potato to a bread is we're using the potato as a lot of the water content. And because we put some of the vital wheat gluten in there, that vital wheat gluten is going to make up for the lack of gluten in that potato. So it's going to act more like a proper bread, because obviously when we put potato in bread, we're limited how much potato we put in because of the water that's in the potato. If we put too much potato in, it's going to become too wet as a dough. And also, if we put too much potato in, it's going to lessen the gluten of the flour that we use, because there's going to be less gluten overall in the dough because there's no gluten in flour. So that's why we have to add the vital wheat gluten. So I will do a proper recipe. Now I think there'll be enough liquid in the Poolish and what's left in the potato, because we haven't drawn all. It's still a little bit damp. We can only squeeze so much water out of it. I think there'll be enough water in that and that to make a sufficient amount of dough, so we won't need to add any more water to it. We might need to add a little bit of flour, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Now we do need to put some salt in, so that much salt, and then mix that into there like that, and then we'll mix the yeast into this, and then we'll have to mix it in, then we'll have to knead it in. I'll do the kneading off camera. Where's the little split? So there's a little split. Normally we add the yeast to water, but we don't need to do that. Knead, as in knead. So mix that into there like that, and then this is going to be a bit of a process of mixing this into there, which I don't think there's just any way around it. We're just going to have to mix and mix and mix and mix and mix, and then knead and knead and knead and knead and knead. You could do it on the machine, but I'm not a huge fan of kneading things on the machine. It will eventually mix into it, given it a bit of time. It'll just take a while to work it in. If this doesn't work, I don't know. We'll class it as a failure and we'll move on to the other bread. But it's just a case of working it in. It probably needs to be done on the machine, but hopefully, and like I've mixed gluten into other things before, and it just takes time. It just, it's just a slow kind of process. I'm mixing a bit at a time, keep kneading and kneading it, and then when it's all combined, then we'll give it a 5-minute knead. But we're already giving it a bit of a knead to kind of mix this in. But it's starting to go in. And I think it will be a good enough dough. Yeah, it's starting to go in. We're starting to lose it in the dough. So I'll carry on mixing, and then we're back when it's all incorporated, and then we'll decide about kneading times or something like that. But it's been for one day, and I really wish I hadn't started making bread. But the Poolish wanted to rise kind of quite quickly, so I think we'll have this bread made by the time I go swimming. So I'm not gonna. Normally, when I'm making bread, you knead it, let it rise for an hour, and then knock it back, and then shape it into the whatever shapes you're going to make, and then rise it again and then bake it. But because of the potato content in this, I think we really need to kind of quite crack on. So once we've kneaded it, we'll shape it, we'll put it in the proving basket, let it rise, and then we'll bake it straight away, which I was always told that we knock a dough back and then let it prove again to improve the gluten structure. But I do remember at college, a long time ago, we did have a bread recipe where we only kneaded it and formed it, and then baked it once it had ridden once. It was like a fast, well, because we were, so at college we started college at maybe 9 o'clock in the morning, and if we're working in a college restaurant started serving food at 12, or if we were in the canteen or the cafeteria, what were they called? I don't know what it was called, it had a different name. So you're limited by time, so to kind of make fresh bread for customers, regardless of who they are, you kind of need to kind of crack on straight away, and us being a bunch of students, we're a bit slow to get going on a morning, so the chances of bread being ready, if we were to prove it and knock it back and then prove it again and then bake it, wouldn't necessarily be ready. But it's coming together as that. So that's come together. We'll give it a 10-minute knead, and then we'll have a look at it and a shape of it, and we'll see how it turns out. Right, it's not a bad dough. It's not a bad dough. It's not terrible. It's not brilliant, but it's not a bad dough. It's not a bad dough. I think you could do with a little bit more vital wheat gluten in it. But let's have a see what we can do. So this is half the dough. So to shape it, what we do is what we're really doing is we're making the dough tight. So we are pulling the bottom of the dough there at the bottom, and then what that does is it takes the top of the dough and pushes it around the outside, well, pulls it around the outside, so we get tension in the dough. And the tension in the dough is when you get that lovely split. When you slice it on the top of the sourdough, you get that lovely split that kind of opens out, and that's because of the tension in the dough. You can't just plonk a dough ball onto a sheet, slice it, and think you're going to get a nice split in it. And it's the same for making baguettes, and it's the same for making loaves. So you need to create tension in the loaf, or the buns, whatever you're making. So probably need some more wheat gluten in it, but we'll see how we go. You see how it's starting to tear there. That's because of a lack of gluten in it, but we live and learn, don't we? If it's a little bit dappled, I'm not that bothered. So hopefully that's created a bit of tension. No, not really, because it doesn't want to spring open. So probably a lack of gluten in this dough, but we've just put a load of potato in it. So that's one. We'll do the other one, and then we'll kind of see how it turns out. So it'll double in size, and then we'll bake it in the oven, and then that'll be that. So it might not split open, but I'm more interested in getting as much potato into a dough as possible and faffing around. Let's be honest, if you haven't noticed, all my videos are me pretty much faffing around, and most of the time the results turn out interesting. Is the word interesting. So we generally tend to learn things rather than accomplish things and make beautiful dishes. This is not the channel for beautiful dishes. This is the channel for faffing around in the kitchen. Anyway, so yeah, that's not going to create much tension. Maybe it need a lot more gluten in it. Can't remember, not to worry. Anyway, so that goes in the other proving basket, and then we'll see how they turn out. Right, we have certainly doubled in size. So the other one, it's going to take about 25 minutes to cook. So the other one will have another 25 minutes of rising, which might make it overproof, but that's a danger. But also it will show us if it can proof for just that little bit longer. So cast iron pot, into the cast iron pot. Now it's just dropped slightly. So we'll give it a slash, but I don't think that's going to make a bit of difference. No. That's dropped. Ow. Not to worry. We'll see if the cooking process brings it a bit back to life. So, in the oven, full blast, 25 minutes. We'll see how we go, and then we'll cook the other one. 5 minutes. Let's have a look. We'll just have to be a little bit more generous with the next one, gentle with the next one. So, I'll probably do it a bit more. Needs a bit more. We'll put it back in. Another look at this. So, 30 minutes-ish. And we'll put the other one in, and we'll be a little bit more gentle with it. So, it's cooked. It's just dropped a bit. So, gently, gently, gently with this one. I'm not going to cut it. I'm going to put it straight in. And then we'll be able to cut into that one when that one's cooked. So 30 minutes. We'll see how we go. At 30 minutes, let's have a look. Well, it's had slightly over, but see. You can see. Yeah, still a bit flat. Still a bit flat. Right. Put that in the oven, out of the way, so it's not going to burn anything. Oh, burn me, more importantly. And then let's just have a cut into this one, straight down the centre. And we'll be able to have a look. That's not terrible, is it? That's not terrible. More importantly, how does it taste? Feels nice and soft. It should have risen a lot more than that. I think it needs more gluten in it. So, it's alright. You wouldn't have guessed there was that much potato in it. So, with the next one that we're going to make with the dehydrated potato, the smash, we'll put more gluten in it, and then we'll kind of see if that kind of makes it a little bit more robust. Right, let's have a go at making this bread with some smash. I have upped the amount of vital wheat gluten. There already is 50 grams worth of vital wheat gluten in that, and I've got to put another 100 grams in there. I think the lack of gluten is the kind of problem. I think by upping it significantly, it will vastly improve it, but we're still only playing around, aren't we? And then, so there is 100 grams of extra vital wheat gluten, 160 grams worth of the smash, a packet of yeast. We'll give that a mix around, and then we'll add 175 grams worth of water, because there's already, there should be 350 grams worth of water, but there's already 175 grams worth of water in there, so another 175 grams of water, totaling 350 grams worth of water. We'll put some salt in once we have mixed around the this, so the salt won't kill the yeast. So a little bit of salt, mix it around. Now I think what we'll do is we'll mix that into there. We might need to add some more water. Because we've put more dry powder in the form of the wheat gluten. So we might need to add some more water, but we can do that as we go, and I'll make a note of that. So, same kind of process again. It's going to be a bit of a swine to mix in, but we'll kind of get there. Yeah, it's definitely going to need some more water. Yeah, let's put in another 50 grams worth of water now. Going on the rule that we can always add a little bit more. Very difficult to start taking things away. Certainly when it comes to water, and certainly when it comes to salting things. So if we're seasoning, you add a little bit of salt, and then taste it and then add a little bit more. Same with water, add a little bit and then add a little bit more as it kind of comes together. It's going to be a pain in the knead, but we'll see how we go. I'm going to give it, I was going to leave it for an hour, wasn't I, to kind of, we'll mix it together first and then we'll kind of see what the dough's. I don't think the dough will be that bad. It feels kind of quite tight, but a tighter dough kind of gives a better spring if we're going to slice the top of it open before we bake it. And then I was kind of thinking that it might be, this potato bread that we're making might actually be better made into a focaccia, or if we shaped it into a container and then baked it in the container. So if we made like mini bread rolls and put them on a baking sheet, not on a baking sheet, but a high-sided baking sheet, and then drop the bread rolls in, then let it proof, then put it in the oven, then it like a batch baking of bread rolls. That might have been the problem when I dropped it into the cast iron pot. It kind of knocked all the air out of it, but it was still, I mean, it's 2 days ago that I made it and it's still soft bread. You know, it's not hardened up like a sourdough, like a sourdough would over 2 days. So I think the potato certainly keeps it softer. Right, and we're going to leave that. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave the water to soak into that properly for an hour, and then I'm going to come back and knead it and then form it. I think that's what we're going to do. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So we'll leave this for an hour, just covered. The yeast will start. We're at 4 minutes, so we're at 14 minutes. Oh, yeah. This is going to be a long video. Yeah, I think. Yeah, we'll leave it. So then the water has all that time to get into hydrate everything properly, and then we'll give it a knead. The yeast will start working in that time, but we can class that as the first knock on the back, can't we? I think that'll be okay. It'll be a bit, probably could do with a bit more water, but we'll see how we go. So we're back in an hour. So it's certainly started to rise. It needs a better mixing with that than that, but we'll do that when we're kneading. So the kneading will be part of the mixing process. So we will knead, and then we'll form into a shape, and then we'll have a. Does it need some more water? I don't know. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Maybe another 50 grams. Don't know. We can always. I might add some more. I'll tell you if I add some more. I'm going to add some more. I'm going to add some more. It feels really kind of quite tough, so I think another 50 grams of water. I don't think it's a bad idea. It's going to be a bit of a mess to mix it in, but it won't matter. We'll get there eventually, so we'll just mix it in roughly, and then we'll start to knead it, and then it'll. That's better already, does that? So we'll knead it, and then we'll have a look at it once it's kneaded, and we'll form it. But yeah, 50 grams is better. Yeah. So just need to remember for the recipe for the description. It's a bit. I'll put another 50 grams worth of water in. It's a bit of a shaggy dough. I don't think we're going to get a nice tight dough on this. I think it's just going to start splitting like the other one. I've got some on the stove. So we're going to do one in the proving basket, and we'll do one. We'll bake it in a tray. So we'll bake it like a focaccia, I think. I see. Yeah, it's wanting to. I think it's just the nature of the potato, and I don't think this vital wheat gluten is particularly very usable. I think it's much better to get the wheat out of the gluten out of some dough yourself, some flour yourself. Maybe. I don't entirely understand. Although, so when we separate gluten from flour, we're left with the gluten and then we're left with the starch. Whereas potato just isn't pure starch, is it? There's other things going on in there. So maybe if we took the starch from the potato, so I grated it and then rinsed it in water and then collected the starch at the bottom of the container and then used that to make bread. Maybe, but we're not, that's not what we're doing, is it? That's not what we're doing. We're upping the gluten content of some potato. And if we're doing that with potato starch, we might as well just do it with cornstarch. So, then there like that. And then wait until that, cover it, wait until it doubles in size, and then we'll give it a bake. And we'll see what happens now. Need some flour. I'm going to have to tease this one out before we run out of space on the camera. Might have to roll it out. I'm not worried about losing the air in the dough, so I think we'll just roll it out and then put it in there with a bit of olive oil. I think olive oil at the bottom. And roll it out. I think we'll see how we go, but I need to stop because we'll run out of space on the phone. Right, let's get it roughly into a shape, and then put some more olive oil on the top as well. And we're going to see how this turns out, like that, and then I don't know why we do this, but I've seen other people do it. And then olive oil on top. I'm not going to put any herbs in or extra salt or anything like that. And that, we'll see what that's like when that rises in an hour or so as well. Right. I don't think the oven's up to temperature, but we need to bake that quick. So, I'm not going to slice the top, I'm just going to put it into the cast iron pot, slightly overproofed. Gently. Now it's dropping already, but not to worry. Even the temperature might just give it a bit of oomph. So that in there, and then that's proved, so that can go in as well. And we'll see what they're like in 30 minutes time. It's almost had half an hour. Let's have a look at it. See if it looks ready. Yeah, that looks ready. That looks ready. We'll have that out. It feels nice and light. Go back in the oven so it's not wanting to burn me. Of course it doesn't want to burn me. It's not real. It's not alive. So it feels quite light, does that? It feels quite light. So this came out first. Let's just cut into it or tear into it. That looks good. That looks alright, isn't it? That looks alright. How's it taste? Nice and soft. It's a bit like a pizza. Needs a bit more salt. Needs a bit more salt, but that's lovely as well. I mean, it's not. It tastes like a bread loaf made with. Well, it tastes like bread made with plain flour. So not bread flour, just like a normal flour that you use for making pastry. That's nice, is that? Well, we'll cool that, and then we'll cut into it. So that's pretty tasty. As you can see, I've been eating quite a bit of it. I think making the, what am I call it? The thing where you make the dough and add some yeast and then let it die. Poulton. I think that's a wise move, and I think it vastly improves the flavour of bread if you're using just fast acting yeast or fresh yeast. So, I mean, it's kind of a bit. It's not crusty, but we'll see how we go. That's alright, isn't it? That's alright for a bread that's made out of like 50% dehydrated potato. That's worked as that. I think I think it'd make lovely soft rolls. So if we did it in something like that, like 9 rolls or 12 rolls in there, like individual balls, I think that would be kind of quite lovely. How does it taste? Well, it's the same as that one. It's the same as that one, isn't it? So it's going to taste the same. It's nice. It's nice as that. Now, I think it certainly needed more of the vital wheat gluten in it. But, and I think it goes to the same for freezing when we use the frozen potato as well, and then squeeze all the water out of it. I think that needed more vital wheat gluten in it as well. And if we're certainly going to make potato bread, using a sourdough starter takes too long. You need to use either a fresh yeast or a dried yeast, and we need to make a poultice. I want to say poultice. It probably comes from the same place, doesn't it? But where we make a dough, make the dough before and add the yeast and let it die, and then incorporate some fresh yeast into it to kind of improve that kind of flavour, which is what the French bakeries, I was told, I don't know if this is true or not, but I believe who told me, keep a bit of the previous day's dough back and then use that dough in the next day's bread, so it has a better flavour, and then kind of repeat that kind of process. So some of these, it's not like a sourdough, you're not keeping the yeast back, but you're keeping some of the bread back to improve the flavour of the bread. So that's kind of like, that was the first batch that we made, and that was the second batch. So certainly adding the more gluten makes a vast improvement, and I kind of think that one would have turned out like that if we'd have put more gluten in. So nice. Seems like a bit of a faff, but most of the things that I do are. And I kind of think that, there's a fly, I kind of think, but we, I suppose my original thought was, there's the old nursery rhyme, isn't it, where the, like the fee fight faux form of Jack and the Beanstalk, I smell the blood of an Englishman, I'll grind his bone to make my bread. And that's where the original kind of thought was from, like, what else can we make bread out of? Not crushed up bone, for one thing, but we can make bread out of different things, but we just need to faff around with the gluten content of them to kind of improve it. So think of anything that we could mostly have powder in a powdered form that's like wheat flour. Most flours, we can add the vital wheat gluten to kind of improve those kind of flavors, and then anything else that we could think about as well. So we could have done like cornmeal and all those type of things. So polenta and all those type of things could essentially been turned into like a bread. We've just got to really put lots of gluten in it to improve it. Anyway, interesting and rather quite successful is that. I'm quite happy with that. It's never going to be like wheat flour bread, but it's nice. It's nice all the same. There we go.